Class 8, welcome to the biology class. We'll continue with the chapter health and hygiene. So the last part we had done was vectors. Today we will continue with prevention of diseases and different types of addiction. Okay, and what about immune system and all. So we will continue with the chapter health and hygiene. So we'll start with prevention of diseases. Okay, now please look at the screen. All right, so prevention of diseases, we'll start with it now. Human beings possesses some natural mechanism that enable them to fight pathogens and remain healthy. So we have our own mechanism to fight against the diseases. Okay, to fight against the diseases we have the own mechanism. Diseases can be prevented by maintaining personal and community hygiene and avoiding unhealthy habits and lifestyle. So we must change our lifestyle to remain healthy or to become healthy. Another way in which we can have a healthy life is vaccination. So vaccination is an additional way of boosting immunity against specific diseases such as chickenpox, hepatitis, polio, and so on. So let us talk about the general methods of prevention of diseases. Okay, general methods of prevention of communicable diseases. So we can prevent ourselves from communicable diseases by following certain norms. So by preventing exposure to infectious microbes, to prevent exposure to airborne microbes, live in healthy and hygienic conditions. Next point to remember is to prevent waterborne infections. We have to drink clean water and safe drinking water. So we must use potable water. How? By chlorination, by putting chlorine to water so that we can kill the infection causing germs, or by boiling it and filtering it. Okay, so water can be treated to kill microbial contamination by boiling or any other methods. The next thing we have got to understand here is to prevent vector-borne infections. Vector-borne infections are those. So what is a vector? Again, I want to tell you, a vector is an organism that carries pathogens from a source of infection to a healthy individual without getting affected itself. So like housefly, mosquito, they are vectors. So to avoid ourselves from vector-borne infections, we have to clean our surroundings so that the disease-carrying vectors do not flourish there. So we have to protect ourselves from infections or any other diseases. It's important for us to keep our surroundings clean. Thus, public hygiene is a basic key of prevention of infectious diseases. Another way we can prevent communicable disease by boosting our immune system. Okay, the immune system can be boosted, or the functioning of immune system depends upon the type of nutrients the body receives. So we must eat proper food and sufficient food to increase boosting our immune system and prevention of diseases. Now we go to the next topic, natural defenses and immunity. So natural defenses, how does our body naturally defend ourselves from diseases, and how can we increase immunity. So you can have a look at the diagram and listen to me. Although the air, food and water around you is full of pathogens that can enter our body, you always do not fall ill. Why don't we fall ill? Even though we have a lot of germs around it, the water that we drink, the air that we breathe, somehow or the other, the germs, the disease-causing microorganisms do enter our body, but we do not fall sick all the time. How is this possible? This is because our body has several natural defenses such as skin, white blood cells and mucus to ward off infections. Besides these, the body has a special system of defense known as immune system. Now, what does the immune system do? The immune system in the body makes antibodies. Antibodies are nothing but the proteins in the blood plasma which attack the foreign bodies that might enter and prevent diseases. So it makes antibodies which attacks the foreign bodies that enter our body and prevent diseases. So that is what the antibodies do. So antibodies produces, immune system produces antibodies, and antibodies will ward off the infection causing foreign bodies or microorganisms. So this natural resistance against disease is called immunity. Our body will automatically ward off disease by a special system known as immune system, in which antibodies are produced which ward off, which kills or which fights the microorganisms that cause diseases. So besides the immune system, you can have a look natural defenses of the body against diseases. Now we'll have tears in our eyes, isn't it? So tears wash away germs from the eyes, which might cause infection in our eyes. Another what do you call it? The liquid, okay? The jelly-like substance or the liquidy substance which produced in the nasal cavity, that is called the mucus. So the mucus lining in the nasal cavity traps all the germs to purify inhaled air. So the mucus in the nasal cavity will trap all the germs that might cause diseases which are there in the air, so that it doesn't get inside our body. Next is the white blood cells, okay, or we also call it the leukocytes. The leukocytes or the white blood cells in the blood attack invading germs. So the white blood cell engulfs all the disease-causing microorganisms and protects us from various diseases. Another way in which our stomach wards off certain germs is by producing acid. Like the stomach produces hydrochloric acid, which kills many germs in the food which might cause diseases. And the skin acts as a barrier and keeps out most of the germs that might infect our system. So the immunity provided by a person's body towards a particular disease may be a short-term or it may be also a permanent thing. So for example, once you suffer from chickenpox, you will never contract it again, as the antibodies produced against the chickenpox virus may remain in your blood throughout your life. So once you have chickenpox, the body will produce the immune system will produce antibodies to fight against chickenpox, and it will remain in the blood forever. And once you have contracted this chickenpox, after that, once you are cured, you will never have it again in your life. So immunity to some bacterial disease such as diphtheria and typhoid also last for a few years. So once the immunity is lost, the antibodies will again disappear from the blood. So now the next way we can ward off diseases is by vaccination. Okay, so you can have a look. That's how we vaccinate ourselves for the small children. What is a vaccine now? A vaccine is a biological preparation made from weakened or killed forms of disease-causing microorganisms that improves immunity in a particular disease. So we inject in the system, in a blood, a few organisms that causes a particular disease. So naturally, the immune system will now produce certain substances which develop resistance against that particular pathogen which cause diseases. So a vaccine can be injected or taken orally. So vaccination is the administration of a weakened or a killed pathogen, that is a vaccine, to stimulate the immune system to develop resistance against the pathogen. So we inject ourselves with the pathogen, and the immune system will automatically produce certain substances and increases the immune system and develop resistance against that disease. Inside the body, the vaccine triggers the immune system to produce antibodies. So if you put a little bit of germs that cause a certain disease, the body will automatically produce, and the immune system will automatically produce antibodies to fight against these pathogens or the microbes which is present in it. So the antibodies attack and destroy the weakened microbes and remain in the blood to fight off possible attack by that pathogen in the future. Again, the immune system increases, and then to ward off that disease, these antibodies will remain in the blood for a very long time. In this way, the body develops immunity against that particular disease. So vaccines are usually given to children between the ages of 6 and 10 years against common infections. Let me name some few. They are infections like we vaccinate young children against diphtheria, whooping cough, tetanus, polio, measles, mumps, rubella, chickenpox, meningitis, and so on. So some of these vaccines have to be repeated after a few years, since they do not provide lifelong immunity. So it does not give us a lifelong immunity, but it will remain. The antibodies against these particular disease will remain in our body after vaccination for quite some time. So if you again have to vaccinate, these are called the booster doses. So a vaccination against a particular disease such as measles and typhoid will protect against that particular disease only. It will suppose you are vaccinating for measles, the antibodies produced will only protect us from measles and not with any other disease. Now we come to immunization. Okay, now we come to immunization. Now, what do you mean by immunization? It is the process by which a person is made resistant or immune against a particular disease by administering a vaccine. Again, after the vaccination, our body becomes immune to that particular disease. A vaccine stimulates the immune system of the body to protect it from subsequent infections in the future. So usually children are vaccinated. Why? To increase the immunity for against certain diseases, that particular disease. So what are the basis of principles of immunization? If a pathogen enters a body, the immune system will recognize it and respond against it. For each type of pathogen, the immune system produces cells that are specific for that particular pathogen, as I already told you. So if you are vaccinating against polio, it will fight against the pathogen which causes polio and not with any other pathogens. So these cells attack the pathogen entering the body for that particular disease. And the next point to remember is, in the future, if the same pathogen or its close relative enters the body, the immune system recognizes it and responds with a greater vigor and fight against that particular pathogen. So thereby it eliminates the second and subsequent infection even more quickly than the first time. So this cycle will go on each time the pathogen enters the body. Now we'll talk about cleanliness and hygiene, which is very, very important. Now we got to remember that many diseases can be avoided by maintaining cleanliness and hygiene within and around ourselves. So the first point to remember is, do not eat stale and uncovered food which is exposed to flies or any other vectors. Next point to remember is, drinking water should be very, very clean. Now, how do we go about it? So, always boil and filter water before drinking. And you have to store water in very clean containers, which is covered properly. Another thing to remember is we have to have a balanced diet. And of course, along with the balanced diet, we have to maintain regular physical exercise. So exercise is very, very important. Take care of personal hygiene. We have to take bath regularly. Wash our hands frequently, like we are all doing right now, to fight against the novel coronavirus. So we have to take bath regularly and wash our hands frequently, and especially before and after meals. A person suffering from contagious disease such as cold should cover his or her mouth and nose while sneezing, and we should avoid spitting in public places. Another point to keep in our mind is, keep your surrounding clean and always dispose the garbage properly in covered bins. Do not allow water to collect near your house, as stagnant water promotes breeding of mosquitoes, and mosquitoes are vectors which transfers many diseases. So the last point to remember for cleanliness and hygiene is, follow regular immunizations schedules for common diseases to avoid infections. Okay, so today we will talk about we have talked about the prevention of diseases, general methods of preventing communicable diseases, natural defenses and immunity, vaccine, immunization, and cleanliness and hygiene to ward off certain diseases from our life. So next class we will talk about the unhealthy habits and lifestyle that we practice. Okay, so this much for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you understood. Thank you.